go. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Libby Reads. I'm David Allan-Petale, your host, and tonight I'm joined by Alan Carter, who's going to be talking to us about his latest book, Franz Josef. Alan, welcome to Libby. How are you going?
Uh, Fantastic. Thank you for inviting me along.
It's a pleasure to have you. This is I think, our second outing with you you were previously part of Libby Book Club for WA. We're now called Libby Reads, so it's great to have you in our new space, but same community, same rules, same everything. This is a group that's free and open to everybody to join. We're even called like a Night Owls book club, and I think that applies double to you, Alan, because you're joining us from Tasmania, where I think it's 10:30 at night time. So appreciate
Uh, yes,
appreciate
very
you.
much a night owl time for me. We're very character building, and I had an extra cup of coffee about an hour ago, so I'm raring to go.
Well, it's great to have you. And look, before I dive in, I just want to acknowledge I'm broadcasting to you tonight from the traditional lands of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and I pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Like I said before in the intro, this Libby Reads is open for everybody. The Libby app is free to download. This is all thanks to the State Library of WA, Overdrive Australia, and the good people at Libby. And you can get Alan Carter's Franz Josef with no holds. No holds, no bars, no nothing. It comes straight to your Kindle or to your audio. You can get it from your local library and get them in. It's just all about accessing reading and celebrating great stories. And I'm really happy to say that, Alan, you're here with us to talk about Franz Josef tonight. If you've got a question and you're joining us, jump in the chat. Ask Alan anything. We decided before we're going to try not to do too many spoilers, but if it happens, it happens. So, Alan, in a very, very Dorothy Dixer way, can you tell us what Franz Josef is about?
Okay, Franz Josef is the third in the Nick Chester series set in New Zealand. Nick Chester is a what we call a Mackem, as in, like me, somebody who was born and bred in Sunderland in the northeast of England. And he found himself on the other side of the world, up a dead end valley in New Zealand, on the run from bad guys. In this third outing, he's now a detective in the North Tasman section of the police force, which is the top of South Island, basically. And he's investigating a body being found in the glacier down at Franz Josef on the west coast of South Island. His beat is a huge area which goes down to Franz Josef, right across the top and down the other side to Kaikoura. A lot of ground to cover, but yeah, what looks like an open and shut case, of course, is not.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. And we've got a great comment here from Peter Newman already saying, "Hi, Alan and David. Looking forward to reading this. I'm up to date, having read all of your others. Same here. But you've designed this. You've designed this series so, and also every other series you've ever done. So you don't have to read them all. You can come in cold. There's enough that you can get on with it. But also, if you do read the previous ones, that sheds more light, doesn't it?
Yeah, they're all should be able to be read as standalones, but there are hints within them as the stories unfold as to what kind of past there might have been for them. But um, no, no spoilers within that. Each of them could be read in any order, really.
It's something I really enjoyed in Franz Josef is Nick. He's been around the block a lot, Nick. He's been through the ringer. He refers back to it, but he's older. He's wiser. He's a bit more beaten up, but he still retains that humor and that razor sharp mind. What sort of stage in life is he at for this mystery at the beginning and perhaps at the end?
He was he's a bit impetuous, has been all the way, which is how he often ends up in trouble, and he ends up in trouble in this one through his impetuousness. But um, he is trying to balance the work-life balance, if you like. He's got quite a few challenges on the home front. In terms of his family life, and then being stuck in this place, Franz Josef, away from family, while other things are going on, and yet he needs to solve this mystery and deal with his problems there. He's gradually growing up, if you like. um, but I think he still as infuriating as ever. I think, um, which is why it's good fun to write.
Indeed, indeed. And can you tell us a little bit about the mystery that starts everything? There is a body in a glacier, and it's been injured in a very well. It's a dead body. There's injuries that are intriguing, shall we say?
Yes, it's not too much of a spoiler to say it's the body of a young African man, and he has injuries to the back of his legs. Effectively, the tendons have been cut, and we're all left wondering how he got there and why and what's behind all of this. It was interesting for me when I first started writing it. Um, I've been to Franz Josef a few times, and when I started writing the first version of this book, my memory of Franz Josef was about 10 years old at that point. And so I had it that he could quite easily have actually walked up onto the glacier and found himself or being walked up by somebody onto the glacier and then ended up in this crack in the ice. Um, when I actually went back to check, I was completely wrong because the glacier has receded about a kilometer back up the mountain
Wow.
during that 10 years as a result of climate change and all of that. So uh, what I'd written was complete garbage, basically. He couldn't have got there that way. So I had to rewrite the beginning and work out some other way for him to get up there, which was well, it was annoying for a start, and it was a challenge, but it actually helped contribute to what the story became as well. But yeah, you need to check these things before you put them out.
Indeed. And it's that realism that you're renowned for, Alan. You know, that attention to detail, the procedure, but also the imagination that comes from that. Franz Joseph's a real place. Can you tell us about the Franz Joseph in life, but also the Franz Joseph in your fiction?
Uh, yes, I mean Franz Josef. There's the Franz Josef Glacier on the west coast of South Island, and then the Franz Josef Township very near to that. And it's a small, very small town, which usually will has about 1,000 inhabitants, a couple of cafes and pubs, and an awful lot of helicopter hire shops for going up onto the glacier. In fact, there's no pharmacy there, so try and get a Panadol and you're in great difficulty, but you can get a flight up to the glacier, no worries. Um, so it's a funny place, very spectacular. But I also created a kind of a what if scenario based on news reports of there was at one point a few years ago the because Franz Josef sits directly on the Alpine fault, which is the tectonic plate, the fault lines between the Pacific and the Australian plates, if you like, and uh, it was kind of it's a laboratory for a disaster scenario because when and if that erupts, it'll be a category 8 and it'll just tear South Island apart. So yes, they built this town to slap bang on the Alpine fault, which maybe they didn't realize at the time. They probably didn't. So for a while, there was an idea to possibly relocate the town a few k's down the road to somewhere safer. It was really out there, and it was mooted in the press and everything. Um, just because they really couldn't guarantee people's safety, and this thing could happen at any time. Could be tomorrow, could be 20 years from now, but it probably is going to happen at some point. So I went with the idea that okay, what if they did actually have this planned move, and the book starts with that in mind. That the town is being closed down, people are gradually being moved out, and then nature strikes. It could not only the earthquake issue, but that part of New Zealand just gets hit by all of the storms and landslips and winds and floods that you can imagine. It's a challenging place to decide to live anyway without earthquakes. So all of that plays into the plot.
Very atmospheric. Right at the beginning, Nick is just thinking this is an unusual murder. Somebody's definitely done it in town. He and his partner are going to investigate. But then Mother Nature uh, literally shakes the ground beneath their feet. And then there's also flooding that cuts them off. So we're in a locked room all of a sudden. This is
Mm.
a town that's, yeah, like you said, it's built on a fault line. It's got the impacts of climate change, but also there's paranoia because of COVID, because of uh, the isolation that they have, and also neighbor against neighbor because of this move to move the town. Franz Josef is a very complex place in the story here. What's Nick's impression of it in the beginning and also during it? Does he see it as a okay, this is a bit of a messed up kind of place, or does he discover that it is?
Um, well, this is probably the third time that Nick's been involved in a small town murder. The number of small town murders that happen in New Zealand and Australia, I tell you that it's a scary place to be. Um, so yes, it's kind of weird because you have this yeah, I mean, you've got the environment impacting on it in a huge way, which I mean the environment plays a big part, I think, in New Zealand daily life anyway, because you have uh, big time weather, you have always the threat of earthquakes, you have spectacular landscapes, which Franz Josef, I think during the time of writing, actually did get cut off by floods and landslips. And that's a relatively regular occurrence for them. So that they are used to dealing with and preparing for disaster. My screen's doing weird things. Uh, or is it just me?
Oh, yeah.
Late night thing. Um, so I think Nick finds that the place probably the slightly claustrophobic because it's a bit unpredictable in terms of both the people and who to trust and who to believe and what's going to happen next, which is perfect for crime.
We're getting some great comments in the chat here, Alan. So Artie Pillay is saying, I really enjoyed the book. I've been to Franz Josef myself, so it was nice to read a book set there. It had many twists and turns that really kept me guessing. As someone who likes to guess the ending of books and movies, I was pleasantly surprised by being surprised. Now, my mother loves to read crime novels, and she always reads the end first and then goes through. I'm not that.
That's pretty twisted.
It's pretty twisted. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not. I don't do that. But how, without giving it away, how did you conceal that? Because I'm not saying red herrings or anything, because there are just so many twists and turns, and it's like being led by torchlight down a very dark road with this incredible atmosphere. That must have been a lot of fun to craft.
Yeah, and there was not a great deal of pre-planning of that because I'm one of these, there's plotters and pantsers, and I'm a pantser, so I could just kind of go where it takes me, apart from having I suppose, a general idea of the themes of the book. So short of having a body in the glacier and then saying, well, what happened next?
That's it.
It led me along those turns. Plus the going to those locations and using them to best effect and finding something of interest in terms of world events and um, certain issues that I wanted to explore as well. Um, I think for a while there, I kind of, as I quite often do in most books, I would write myself into a hole and then have to write myself back out of it again.
Us.
to get to where it needed to be. Um, but yeah, it can be fun, kind of just seeing what happens next and being surprising yourself.
Alan, what drew you to tell the story of South Sudanese conflict and migrants and refugees? It's a deeply tragic and complex world, but very deftly handled. It was a I've got I knew it a bit from the news, but getting the human touch in it was very affecting.
I think there were a number of things coming together there. I had myself before I became a writer and before that a TV documentary maker. I worked for Oxfam, and so got very. I got an understanding of aid issues um, and how they can come into play. I also was aware of certain organisations, and what there's one in New Zealand, I think, which is they they specialise in kind of, I suppose, management issues or corruption issues, and in investigating and helping people to deal with that, because there's a lot of I suppose donor fatigue, if you like, because there's so many problems in the world. Kind of, who do you try and help next? Because it's a huge thing, and people kind of are almost switching off from it. So there's a lot of cynicism and distrust of all of that. So I was interested in exploring those issues, but also uh, some of the Sudan issues were kind of tied around the issue of who controls water. And at the same time as when I was in New Zealand, both researching this and living there, the issue of who controls water was also a big thing in New Zealand in a different way, as in the dairy farmers wanted to be able to do what they like with all of the water there, while other people are trying to kind of want to protect the clean rivers and the clean lakes and that pristine image of New Zealand and nature. And so there was a kind of a parallel battle going on, if you like. So all of those things were kind of coming into play as I was pondering what to do with the plot, if you like.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. Yeah, friends. It seems like Franz Josef is a place where people maybe they go to escape the world, but no, the world will find you wherever you are. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And in also exploring Sudan and the body in the glacier, I realized also I needed to try and find a way of giving voice to him,
Yes.
because again, earlier drafts, that voice was missing and it was a big gap.
It's very
And
powerful.
so I had to try and find a way of us yeah, hearing him speak and hearing his view of the world and what had happened to him. And so I found this way of, young people using phones to make diaries of their lives and talk through things, and that was part of what I did to get that.
Yeah. And I love that real sense of justice that animates Nick Chester, that real devotion to just keeping on going. And I particularly enjoyed his partner, Latifa Rapato. She is very tough, and she's pregnant. You do
Yeah,
not mess with her. She's mine like a steel trap, but also a really great foil for her. Was there for him? Was their dynamic interesting to play with? She's someone who can keep him accountable and really match him.
yeah. I think from right from book one, Marlborough Man, through Doom Creek, and this one, she has been this yeah, counterpoint to the way Nick is, and Nick being yes, tenacious and obsessive and impetuous, and infuriating, whereas she's very down to earth, but also determined to get things done as well. Um, and also kind of keeps him real when he kind of goes off on tangents, and
Yeah.
she's going to keep bringing him down to earth. And they have a nice relationship where they do actually like each other.
Yeah, yeah.
And but they yeah, they probably know the hell out of each other as well.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I also really, this is just an observation, but it's all the paranoia in the town and the mistrust of neighbors. But at the same time, Nick is finding himself leading a small team and doubting himself throughout. But gradually, he starts to realize, no, I can lead people and I can connect. That was a really interesting avenue to have his growth into that role.
Yeah, well, because they're trapped by the weather and by nature, Nick suddenly finds himself in a default position of being the team leader for this investigation, and he's not that good at, or he doesn't think he's that good at kind of leading people and doing things systematically the way they should be done. And so he doubts himself in that regard, and he's quite relieved to at one point be relieved of that responsibility. Um, but in the end, he pushes on and, being the hero, of course, solves the whole thing. That's his job.
This is it's great. Well, Alan, would you like to read a section of Franz Josef for us? Because we've got to talk about the atmosphere of this book. So if you can
Sure.
time for us, that'd be
I'll just basically read
thank
page
you.
one, the
Yeah.
prelude. It is said that dogs howl just before their owners feel that mysterious jolt, the compression wave, signaling an impending seismic disaster. New Zealand has had its fair share of disasters in recent years. The centre of Christchurch still looks shell-shocked more than a decade after the earthquake that brought down tower blocks, made the earth bubble, and cancelled scores of lives. Further north, the mountains around Kaikoura have been put back in their place after they tumbled towards the sea and gave a foretaste of what Mother Nature is capable of when she turns her mind to it. Not long after, a lethal pandemic virus came and went, changing everything and sweeping all before it. Of course, some devastating shock waves can be triggered by just one man with a semi automatic and a heart full of hate. He's sick of running and hiding. If the end of the world isn't far enough, then where is? There's no such thing as sanctuary these days, was there ever? Churches, temples, and mosques are as likely to become massacre sites as a last refuge. Priests, predators, saviors, savages. Nowhere is safe. No one can be trusted. In the end, you're alone, and not even love can save you. The night is still. The night is still. A full moon bathing the fields in its pale glow. Trees whispering softly. Bird sound, a moorpork perhaps, not so far away. The creak of the gate at the end of the track. Throb of an engine approaching. The dog growls sleepily outside on the porch, waking too late to offer up any warning howl. Up the steps onto the veranda, torchlight, a shadow play dancing on the walls and ceiling. He once was lost, but now is found.
Thank you. There's a line that really stays with me from that. Nowhere is safe, no one can be trusted. That happens at multiple times throughout the story. I'm just thinking like when Nick goes to the neighbor's property where she's been blocked in by the car for days on end. And, she pulls a gun on him. It's this constant return to how do we mend the fences? How do we trust each other? How are we best neighbors?
And I think I mean, in the last few years, we've had the pandemic and how that divided people, and that change and the idea of how we can predict how the world is going to be, the normality as we understand it. Then, of course, you had the Christchurch mosque massacres, which very much changed the face of what uh, I always thought of New Zealand as ultimately a very, very safe place where that kind of thing would never happen. And that was a huge shock. And then we've got the way the world is now, which is again completely unpredictable. So
Exhausting.
all of that unpredictability,
Mm.
adding the possibility of an earthquake into that, uh, nothing can be taken for granted, I suppose.
Yeah. And in the leaf over, it's to all the your devotion is to all the do-gooders in the world, now more than ever.
Yeah,
What do you mean by like a do-gooder? What's a do-gooder to you?
I think the people who do kind of still carry the torch for uh, the difference between right and wrong and wanting to do the right thing and keep on doing the right thing, even in a very cynical and unpredictable and a world that might often seem like it's against them and where they might be feeling powerless or whatever. It's a be hard yakka uh, continuing to hold that
Mm.
torch aloft, I think. And so all power to them, the people who want to see a better world.
Indeed. And I guess that's a nice segue back to Nick because Nick doesn't give up. He's a dog at a bone. He really goes all the way. And one of the threads that really ignites the story is when he finds George Deng. When he that's a very scary scene. They going off into the wilderness and where they can you pick up the thread there and just tell us a bit about that and how that links to what happens next.
Yeah, there's in Franz Josef the something called the Tatara Tunnel. And again, as part of the research, I went in there and had a look into it. And basically, it's a doorway-sized hole in the side of the hill, and you go in there, and it's a tunnel less than my head height, very dark, very wet, and goes back about 500 meters or something, maybe more. And it was one of the many tunnels dug looking for gold, looking for whatever riches, and never went anywhere. But it would have been hard yakka doing that just with a pickaxe at the time. And it turns out to have been, among other things, in my book anyway, perfect place to hide a body.
Yeah. And tell us a bit about George Deng because his initially there's a thought that maybe he's the killer, but turns out there's much more to this story.
Yeah, George Deng is a leading member of the Sudanese community in New Zealand, and um, he helps fundraise for the community, he does good things for the community, and it seems like he would have been a good person to help out this young guy who is a refugee and then has died and been found in the glacier. Not too much of a spoiler, I hope. Um, you're going to find that out by
Yeah.
page 2, 3, 4 anyway. So, um, but yes, George Ding has his own story as well. Um, so he is found in the tunnel, only just alive, hanging by a thread, and looks like a victim, but maybe he isn't.
Yeah. I wanted to ask as well because you're telling us about the tunnel, it's not just the man-made aspects of the book, it's the glacier, it's the mountains, the helicopter scenes where they're flying above everything, the immense beauty and space of it. We've had writers like Josh Kemp on, for he writes this sort of very gothic Australian landscape where there's real menace in the landscape, but I didn't feel menace from your landscape. There's beauty and stillness and depth, very, very much contrasting with the depravity of what man can do to man. Is
Yeah,
that
I mean the Southern Alps in that area are really spectacular and usually snow covered, even right through summer as well, and then flying over them. Yeah, it's a beautiful display of shadows and light on that. And I've also been up onto the glaciers and done the glacier walk through the ice tunnels and stuff like that. So it is an amazing place to be, kind of magical and a tad unreal. Um, so yeah, I was easily able to imagine how somebody as clumsy as Nick could fall down a crevasse
Yeah,
up there.
that was pretty bad. That's yeah, yeah. But actually, I was going to say he gets really dinged up in this book quite a bit. Like he gets tackled like, and what was he said? This must be what it feels like after a rugby game. The
Uh,
next thing. Yeah,
yeah, he does get bashed about a bit, and yeah, I mean, to be honest, he had it coming, really. So,
he did. No, he did. And if anyone has a question for Alan, please jump in the chat. We're getting some great comments, but if you want to talk about anything, please jump in the chat. We've got half an hour to go, so we're ripping through it. So get your question in before the end. We do have a signed copy of Franz Josef to give away tonight. Not this one. This is my one, but Alan is going to send you a
it'll be
copy.
this one.
That one, all the way from Tasmania. And Alan, there's a lot of writers who talk about how they like to write about places where they don't live or where they're not near. They need a bit of distance from something. You're noted for writing about what's in front of you. You know, we spoke about Prize Catch last year, which set in Tasmania, where you're living now. New Zealand's just across the way. What draws you to take on the places that you're immersed in rather than say writing about you can write about Western Australia, but um we
Um, I suppose complete lack of imagination. I can only write what I see out of the window. So
yeah.
when I lived in WA, I wrote WA, and when I lived in New Zealand, I wrote what I was able to see there, and now Tasmania. Um, but of course, having now moved from New Zealand, um, well, that wherever I am, be it WA, Tasmania, or New Zealand, I need to go there and check uh, things like where the glacier is.
Yeah.
It's more of a challenge trying to imagine, for instance, Sudan, because I've never have been there, but that's a much smaller um, part of the description of the book. In those regards, I'll probably try to avoid too much detail on that, so I don't write myself into a hole with that. But it was interesting with Franz Josef and the um, I read up the reports about that disaster scenario of the earthquake happening, and as well as having the Alpine fault go right across the center of town, I also discovered that also built right on that Alpine fault could be a line going through my room here. You have
Oh,
a petrol station with several hundred liters of um, flammable fuel just under your feet, and if that ruptures, that will go coursing down the high street and burst into flames. The emergency services buildings, police, ambulance, fire, were all basically on the wrong side of the fault. So if that goes up,
yeah,
the
they're
rest of the
toast.
town will be in chaos and they'll be stuck on the other side of it. So it was
Yeah,
again, you
yeah.
I have to sometimes say you couldn't write this shit.
No, right. Yeah, scripts you.
And that was for real, kind of, how to deal with that if and when it all happens.
Yeah.
So that was, yeah, again, great fuel for um, having the place itself as a kind of a character, a very looming, ominous character in the book.
Alan, we've got a great question here from Anne Stroughton. She's saying, what is the calendar behind you? Your writing dates for your next book?
Um, that's my plan for the coming year, and you'll notice there's no writing on it. No thing like write a book. It's not in there. I'll have to think of a new one.
Yeah. And that's yeah, and that's your and the pile of books, those are all your books. Yeah.
Yeah,
Fantastic. Yeah, hell yeah.
nine. Yeah, nine.
Ah, hell yeah. And Alan, your background, you were talking to us just a little bit before. You've in aid work and also documentary making. Your writing is very cinematic. It's very does your background in doco help you like to splice together scenes and to set things? Because it all just flows so naturally. It's you can read three or four chapters and not breathe kind of thing.
Yeah, think so. That the visual part of it, and also that documentaries are you'll often have shorter scenes, and the idea of the either a cliffhanger or something that does propel you forward. Um, in some cases, that makes you come back after the commercial break or whatever it is, but something that wants to make you keep on coming back. So that visual thing plus the attention holding aspect of it
Yeah.
probably does help. I think I also found that when I was still doing both things, both the writing and the documentary making, I found that my fiction writing helped feed into the documentary scripting as well. It changed my style of writing that, which became more creative, a bit more lively as well. So yeah, they both crossed each other.
Thank you. And we had a comment earlier from Lucinda Crimson. She says, I finished it yesterday, loved it. Didn't realize there were other Nick Chester books. So Marlborough Man and Doom Creek are the first and the second of the Nick Chester books.
Yeah.
Franz Josef is number three. Can we expect a number four, or have you got something else up your sleeve?
Um, I haven't got anything Nick Chester wise up my sleeve at the moment. Um, the next book out will be a sequel to Prize Catch, the Tasmanian book.
Excellent. Which is like,
That's later this year. Um, but well, yeah, Nick can't keep out of trouble, so I'm sure I can dream up something for him. We'll watch this space.
I like it. I like it. And it's a cheeky question, Alan, but I read that you consider him a bit of an avatar. Yeah, he's so yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because you've got a lot of other characters that you have, but what is it about Nick that you know you like wearing his mask, shall we say?
Uh, well, I suppose he's from the same hometown as me, Sunderland. So, like me, he's uh, continually surprised and often disappointed by the football team. Although at this time, I had a line in the book talking about the ongoing trauma of waiting for Sunderland to get back into the Premier League, and then hey presto, they did it this time and ruined that line in the book. But never mind. Um, but yeah, I think his sense of humor and maybe his worldview are very similar to mine. His yeah, the way he thinks. I'd like to think I'm not as impetuous as him, and um, not as promiscuous as him either. He was a bit of a lad in the first book, and
He was, yeah, but
I, I've had relatives who've come up to me and said, "How could you do that, Alan?" And I said, "It wasn't me, it was Nick."
I love it. That's great. That's great. Thank you. We're getting some great questions here. Tim Landringham is asking, can we expect another Cato book? I'm keen on that because my first reading of you, Alan, was the Cato Kong series, Heaven Sent. So yeah, is that a character that you're going to revisit, or is that someone that you're taking a bit of a holiday from, or?
I think there's unlikely to be another Cato book. I think I feel more comfortable in the head of, say, Nick Chester and Sam Willard in the Tasmanian book. Um, yeah, I think as well loved as he is, I think probably Cato was his been and gone.
Okay, yeah,
Unless there's a tsunami of support and grief wanting him back, who knows?
that's all right. That's all right. We had to ask, but Artie Play is also asking, how long did it take to write this book, from conceptualization to finished manuscript? Do you come up with ideas for books and explore a few on the go, or do you focus on one idea at a time? You said you were a pantser, and you've got that immense calendar. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I tend to this one, but most of the books take about a year from uh, having a notion to getting it to the first draft manuscript. Um, I think Franz Josef might have taken a bit longer. I can't remember why. Maybe I kind of, yeah, I can't remember why, but that it happened. Um, but yeah, it's usually about a year, and then there's maybe 9 months worth of editing and polishing and getting
Yeah.
it ready for the bookshop.
And Alan, also just in terms of your research, the police procedural work in this, do you speak to any law enforcement officers, anyone with uh, do you fact check your stuff, or do you have someone to rely on there?
I think because I've done that many of them now, and I did as part of my documentary work.
Yeah.
Uh, I did a few docos where you're observing police doing their thing. Plus, I've read lots of police procedurals, and I had talked to um, New Zealand cops separate from, say, WA cops to find out the difference in what's going on there. But for the most part, I feel confident in writing it, and I avoid trying to get into the kind of detail that might get me into trouble. So I can imagine it, and basically, as long as it seems plausible, um,
Yeah, keep it
that's
moving.
kind of enough these days. I might, if something came up, I might check on it. But for the most part, because I've done 9 or 10 of these now, I'm reasonably confident in the procedural aspect, either to
Nice.
be true or to be plausible.
We can fix it later. It's all good. Yeah. Well, Alan, it's book three in the Nick Chester series, and it's been out for a bit. But what's been the reaction from your readers? To return to this character, but also to return to them with this dark, atmospheric, complex story that just grips you by the lapels. What's been the reaction?
It seems to be a positive reaction, good reviews for it, including in New Zealand on the RNZ and stuff like that. So that was nice. Yeah, I'm surprised that people like him so much because well, people either really like him for whatever strange reason, or they find him really infuriating, but they'll still stick with him anyway. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, maybe the fact that he is a flawed character, um, but a real one, if you like. Um, Maybe that's what keeps people coming back. Um, and I think with that, the Geordie sense of humor,
Yeah.
um, that helps kind of differentiate the light and the dark as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And what have you got coming up? You mentioned to me earlier you're going to come to the West pretty soon, or not later in the
Uh,
year. Yeah.
I'm hoping to be over to WA later in the year. Might be a festival or an event or two. So fingers crossed. That'd be good to get back over there and uh, meet people and do stuff.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And what can you tell us about the new Sam Willard book that's in the offing? Because I think a lot of people in the chat tonight are keen for the next book. So what can we expect?
Right. Well, so the in Prize Catch, Sam Willard. Well, he he ended up in prison for very good reasons, and he basically in the next book is offered a get out of jail free card um, if he'll do one dangerous thing for somebody as a favor. Then they will do a favor for him and get him out of there. So it involves sovereign citizens, the far right, the growth of the far right, and he becomes embroiled in that world in Tasmania. Um, that's about as much as I can probably tell you right now. But
Nice.
yes, he keeps on making bad choices for very good reasons and having to get himself out of that, wanting to do good. Meanwhile, you've got Jill Wilkie, who was the cop investigating him and other things in Prize Catch. She's still doing what she does. So she will be tailing him and keeping on his case.
I like it. Thanks, Alan. It's good to have it. And bit of an esoteric thing, but in reading your work, it's there's always this notion that the truth will come out. The truth will out. That there's so many enemies of the truth, and so many people trying to manipulate things, but the truth will always come out. Is that something that you believe yourself?
It's something I'd like to believe. Again, I think crime fiction is a good vehicle for exploring the ills of the world. That it always has been, and it's something which I do because I used to do that through documentary TV, and now I do that through fiction, and it's a way of uh, trying to right the wrongs of the world because in real life, wrongs continue to be done and go unpunished. You can look at the headlines today and in the last few months to see that evidence of that. So with having a hero or a heroine in crime fiction trying to uncover the truth and trying to restore the order of things, right and wrong. That's probably why crime fiction is quite important. There's a propulsion there, which keeps you going to kind of root for the good guys, the whatever.
And I mean, back to Franz Josef, the more he dives into this murder, and the more he discovers about the corruption, the South Sudanese civil war, the aid industry, the corruption that's happening, and it's all focused here. He doesn't stop, does he? He just goes, right, this is what's in front of me. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, and the faraway wars are not really any of his business, but he does know the difference between right and wrong, and that's the basic thing for him. Is that um, yeah, as the French might say, people shouldn't be allowed to keep on getting away with this shit. Kind of, that's what heroes and heroines in crime fiction are based upon. Kind of um, stopping bad from happening and making bad people pay for what they've done.
Yes. And I guess you're a very engaged person in the world, Alan. How do you keep an even keel in the writing process and also just in life? You're diving into a lot of very dark territory and trying to make sense of it. How do you stay balanced in the
I
process?
think I'm going to do a rom-com next or maybe write some fairy smut. I think I probably need to get away from all this.
Yeah.
Um, but it does engage me because I think the troubles of the world are for me they are uh, great material for crime fiction stories and I think this idea of having creating a hero or a heroine who tries to right those wrongs, even if it's not real. It's that fantasy can also keep you going forward. That again, like I put in the dedication, the do-gooders of the world to keep on keeping on. And sometimes the I think telling stories about good prevailing over evil it can also help keep us in there as well.
We've got 10 minutes to go. So if anybody has a question for Alan, please jump in the chat. But Alan, a question I often love to ask is what book first really gripped you? That not that made you want to be a writer, but that really opened your soul to the wider world out there. That book that was the doorway.
Um, I'm not sure if it opened my eyes to the wider world out there, but the first kind of crime fiction type book that really grabbed me was an Alistair MacLean one, When Eight Bells Toll. and I think the opening paragraph of that is describing this big gun that somebody is holding and towards the hero, and the hero gives you this little history of how this gun came about into existence, the industrial history of it, like, and it was such an unusual opening for me. I was 13 or 14 when I read it, and I just thought, wow, this is really left of field, if you like, and so that tuned me into crime fiction, I think. Trying to think of one that actually grabbed me as a about the evils of the world, or the way of the world. I think there's a book called The Silver Sword, a children's book, and that was the first time I think I ever learned about the Holocaust. And again, I would have been 9, 10, 11 when I read that. Um, and so, yes, just suddenly becoming aware that in children's fiction, in crime fiction, all these ways of talking about um, some of the biggest stuff that goes on that has happened in the world. Um, I can't remember who the authors of Silver Sword was, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And what books are you reading now? What's on your nightstand and keeping you up?
Um,
Aside from
I'm
chat.
reading I'm reading Cherrywood by Jock Sarong.
Excellent.
Um, that's in the book club I'm in. I'm also I'm in a French book club. I'm reading one by Fred Vargas, a French crime writer, basically. Um, so yeah, that's what I'm reading at the moment.
A French? Do you speak French, or is it a book of?
I try to, yeah.
Excellent.
We.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, yeah. And is there any? Are there any books that you can Cherrywood, I think, is Jock Sarong. Are there any books that you can recommend to people listening in tonight to check out?
I
Either
think,
what's
well, for
gripping?
instance, all of Jock Sarong's series, which I think began with Preservation, then The Burning Island, and then I forget the name of the third one, but there were a series of books which talked about that era when um, basically the genocide of Aboriginal people in Tasmania, and the moving up to Flinders Island to the settlement there, and talking about all of that. Um, an amazing kind of history, but his fictionalizing of it, and yeah, the quality of the writing on that was yeah, I'd really recommend all of those. Oh God,
To
difficult question. I've probably a whole bunch of books I could recommend, but I can't think of them right now. But
a
anyway,
bunch
Jocks are wrong. He's great.
of. But Anne Stroughton's has got a great question for you, just Jan. I may have missed this in the discussion, but how did you get to be a documentary director? Would I have seen any?
All right. I started off doing that back in the UK, making documentaries. Um, and I got into it by being a researcher, a TV researcher, and then gradually got. I then set up a company with some other people in the northeast of England, and we made documentaries. And then when I came to Australia, um, I got the chance to get into it again, um, and moving over from research and producer to actually directing and writing for documentary.
Nice.
Um,
Would we have seen any? Are there any ones that you want to?
I've worked on most of the series of Who Do You Think You Are up until about 3 or 4 years ago, or 4 or 5 years ago. Time passes by so quickly. Um, what else? Desperately Seeking Sheila. That was a few years ago, and basically, it was a kind of a farmer wants a wife thing, but before farmer wants a wife, but much deeper because I was writing it.
Yeah, yeah, a classy farmer.
Yeah, a classy farmer wants a wife. Yeah.
No. Well, I guess a question for all the writers in the audience. Can you describe to us your perfect writing day? and maybe a typical writing day?
Okay. I usually, when I'm on a roll, I'll be doing a 9 to 5, 5 days a week. Usually aiming for uh, 2 to 3 thousand words a day, and sometimes those words can be garbage, and sometimes they'll be gold. But I think as part of my documentary background, I'm aware of how many times you'll need to go through this and rewrite and edit, and uh, that idea of the statue of David inside the lump of stone. You chip away until you get there. Um,
Oh,
so yeah, that sometimes I will just have a word count to be getting through, and know that up there on the whiteboard I've got 10,000 words by end of April, 15, 20 by end of May, whatever, and I know I've just got to do a certain number of words per week, and so I'll chug into it to get there, and then go back later and make it better.
it's a profession. It's a job. It's 9 to 5. It's
Pretty
lunch.
much, yeah, yeah. I'll take it seriously, and
Oh,
it might not pay that well, but
take it
I'll
serious.
still take it seriously. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And what at the end of a day of writing, what does it feel like? You just need a scotch, or is it kind of like no, like that's a good feeling of putting in a hard day.
Yes, if I've hit my word target for the day, that's usually I can happily walk away from it, for the evening, and that's it. I try not to dwell on it, but my wife Kath has mentioned that sometimes I have this 1,000 yard stare
Yeah.
at different phases in a book,
Yeah.
and yeah, so but she's very patient.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. And I suppose a big question hanging over the writing industry is the impact of AI. But this is, do you think real writing is blood, sweat, and tears, and the blank page rather than using a large language learning model? Surely.
Yeah, yeah. I, like most other writers, was pretty pissed off to find out that my books, like everybody else's, had been kind of swept up in this massive industrial trawling net to feed AI for no recognition at all. In fact, I think I asked a question of Meta AI, why did you steal my book? And it answered, what, me? I didn't. I was gaslit by Meta AI, saying it didn't do that at all.
You did.
Um,
Wow.
yeah, it's not good, and then we can't do anything about it. And then, I still need to use Facebook and Instagram and all of the same thing to promote what I'm doing. But meanwhile, it's kind of thieving off me.
Mm.
So it's an unpleasant situation, but I think you do it really. But you can, yeah, I don't know where that's going to go in the end. You kind of hope that the AI bot won't have the same dark, Geordie sense of humor as me, and people will recognize the difference. But you never know.
And is there a word of wisdom for younger writers or people starting out who are considering using AI to speed up their process as a hack?
I don't think if you want to be a writer of fiction, I don't think there are any shortcuts. So there's no speeding up of the process to be done. You basically uh, you do the hard yards, I think, and kind of toil, and I mean you've got to do it for love, because most of us don't. Uh, we don't make a huge amount of money out of it. The people who are international bestsellers are the minority. 80 odd percent, 90 odd percent of us are on a very average basic income. So it's not money that you're doing it for love. If you're doing it for love, then you do it properly.
Indeed, indeed. No, well said, Alan. Thank you. And no, Louise had saying, I can't imagine AI being able to recreate the Geordie sense of humor. It's too good from a Yorkshire lass.
Oh, well, there you go. Fingers crossed.
Look, on that note, somehow we've just had a chat for an hour, Alan. Could have kept it.
Oh,
Thank you so much for a wonderful read this month. It's been bloody hot here in Western Australia, so reading Franz Josef has not only kept me up at night, it's kept me very cool. So
well, that's
really appreciate it. Thank you. And Alan, I'm
value added.
thinking tonight. Anne Stratton's, thank you very much for all of your questions. I'm going to put that's my email address there, daveallenpetale@gmail.com. Get in touch and I'll put you in touch. And with the good people at Libby and Alan, we'll send a signed copy of Franz Josef to everybody who's joined us tonight. Really appreciate you coming along. It's great to have you as part of Libby Reads. And Alan, thank you so much for staying up very late for us to share your process and all the insights about DS Nick Chester and his continuing dark and dastardly adventures. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for having me, and thank you for tuning in.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Cheers.
Bye.
Well,